extra heat. Got a bank account.
KBLA Talk 1580. As it would happen, he's not only the producer of that song, but he actually does have some money in the bank. He is a voice actor, a songwriter, a record producer, and a founder of Fanbase, the founder and visionary behind that that platform, which is meant to change social media forever. Isaac Hayes III, welcome.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm blessed. How are you?
I'm good. You know, that song is almost 20 years old. It's only about 20 years old now.
Wow, that's wild. Time flies. How do you hear it now? Does it sound different now?
No, I mean it still sounds the same. It's like it's great. I love it. It was a great time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, so much going on right now in the world that intersects with your life and your work. I find that myself too. But I guess that, top of mind for everyone is Fanbase. It's almost been like a perfect storm, right, between TikTok and the Trump administration. People are fleeing to Fanbase, right? So talk about, but this is not something you thought of. Oh, TikTok's about to go down. Let me just real quick make this thing happen. This is a long-term plan.
Yeah. I founded this company with my own money in 2018. It took about 6 months to build. And from that point, it's taken, a while because I'm an independently funded startup, meaning I don't have venture capital behind me. And so in that process, I got to the point where we could raise equity crowdfunding to build a platform. And for those that don't know, Fanbase is just an extension of what social media has become. Apps like TikTok and Instagram and Clubhouse have not necessarily served the user in the best way possible. So my contribution to the next evolution and the next generation of social media platforms is Fanbase, one that is free to download, free to use, but you also have people that can tip you for your content and subscribe. And it's funded by the people who actually have invested and help us raise quite a bit of money.
But it's an interesting, well, first of all, a lot of people have tried and failed, right, to set up social media. Various platforms have kind of started and died. And so even thinking of that is a pretty bold vision. And I know, what was kind of your aha, this is what is missing?
Well, coming from the creative space, I always have examples of seeing Black culture be the epicenter of the fuel behind whatever the infrastructure is. And I started to recognize that just in music, but I saw it in social media. I saw us creating skits and dances and trends and all these things. And I was like, who owns the app? So, and what was more important about that was in times of need, in times where the Black community is in need of support from these large conglomerates, these large corporations that have billions of dollars, they're nowhere to be found, but they're perfectly fine leveraging our content and our culture to make billions of dollars and then never return it. So I said, we have to own the infrastructure. We have to build something that's global for every single person on the planet to use the same way we use all the other apps. But when these opportunities come to support Black culture, we're there to immediately fill the gap and stand in and do that. And I think it's disruptive because it really puts the power of monetization and reach and scalability in the hands of all the users who use Fanbase.
I saw something you posted about the impact if everybody Black left Twitter, Meta, whatever, and it was really interesting because it was an AI analysis, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So it wasn't your opinion; it was an analysis of the impact, and it speaks to what it sounds like you thought of when you were creating this idea.
Yeah, I think that infrastructure is so important, and we forget, or I'm not going to say we forget. Let's be candid and say that black people built tons of infrastructure, Jim Crow, and they were killed for their inventions, and their stuff was destroyed and their patents were stolen and all these other things.
Right.
So to take people to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, but then, to have all their inventions. So for me, we're in a new era now where software is globally available. So are these app stores. And so we can leverage our culture inside of software to build multi-billion-dollar corporations. And so that's exactly why I want to do this. I want to put the hands in the power of the people, the ownership in the power of the people, the ownership in the hands of the people, and continue to, build on the success we've had.
I got to give you props for that, because maybe I'm thinking too small, but I always thought, it's going to be too hard to launch something like this. People don't adapt. Everyone's used to the apps they have, blah, blah, blah. And, can we get a Black-owned app that would really compete? But, I finally got on Fanbase, and it's clearly it can compete. I mean, it's got a lot of things that we like, a lot of elements that we like as users of social media, and it seems like people are flocking to it.
Yeah, I think, one thing that I think people will not admit, especially the owners of these apps, is that all these apps have a lifespan. They will live and they will die.
Right.
There's no social media platform that's going to maintain the attention and the dominance forever, simply put, because youth drive culture. And so kids are always going to be on apps that their parents are not on. And so there's no amount of innovation that Facebook can do to get a 13-year-old to make a Facebook page. It's
or a
just not
MySpace, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So it's not going to happen. And so that, we should be building new platforms to house culture and be a place where young people can be separate and be creative and bold and do the things that they like to do, away from the prying eyes of grandma and mom and dad.
Well, yeah, I get that. I'm a mom, so a mom of a teenager. So it's like, well, I want to see what he's doing, but I get it. Most of the young people I know have blocked their parents on whatever app they're using.
Or left the platform. When my mom got on Facebook, I just left. I just went to Instagram.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I have an 18-year-old brother who's a freshman in college at Morehouse. He's not on Instagram because I'm on Instagram. His Instagram page is blank.
Yeah.
It's just not where you want to be. You kind of just, you're a young person. You want to build your own community with your friends and relate to one another in ways that might not necessarily, you want to be around your parents doing. It's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's just your identity. You get to really be yourself.
For sure. I mean, my child is extra. He got a VPN and created, a separate identity from another country, so I can't find him on any apps.
Oh, wow.
But that's, I got a little geek-type child. Well, big one,
genius.
Actually. I got a little, exactly, baby genius. Yeah, but I think that's right. It's just like, even anything, music, fashion, anything. We're not going to do what our parents do. I also feel like, though, there's sort of a defeatism that I was buying into, that we can't scale up like that. And you're doing it. You have already, I feel like I see the updates admittedly on Instagram. We're talking about another milestone in terms of your fundraising. And Black Enterprise is reporting that you've crowdfunded over $5 million for your...
Oh, no. More than that. We've crowdfunded. So as of today, we've crowdfunded $17 million since I started doing equity crowdfunding.
Wow, 17.
Yeah, 17 million. So I did 3 previous rounds in a different version of crowdfunding, a lower level, that you can only max out at 5 million. But, newsflash, apps take a lot of money to build, and VCs are reluctant or just refuse to really assist in helping Black founders build multi-billion-dollar companies. Let's just keep it real.
VC for venture capitalist. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So I have to turn to my community, and we've been very, very successful. As we speak, we've actually just crossed a new milestone, because before this interview started, we were not at 7.5 million, and now we're at 7.5 million raised of this new round, where I'm raising 17 million. And so I had raised 5 of the 17, but now I've raised 7.5 of the 17. So we're really in the last home stretch of closing out this round on StartEngine. And what's important about that is that these are not donations. These are people that are investing and getting equity in Fanbase and sitting on the cap table of Fanbase as if you were an early investor in a company like Apple or Google or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. I'm giving that opportunity to the people that adopt early, that understand the value of the content and the energy that we bring to culture, and letting them invest on Start Engine. So it's extremely important. I tell everybody, if you want to invest, go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. And the minimum, which is what I love about equity crowdfunding, is $399 to invest. So it's limited risk. It's not like you have to put $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 up. You can actually get 60 shares of stock in Fanbase right now, as we are a smaller company, for $399. So I tell everybody, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest.
Well, and the thing about that too is it's the barrier to entry for any kind of stake in any other social media. We saw them on the dais at the inauguration. It's like, you don't have to be a billionaire to have a stake in Fanbase. You don't have to be Bezos.
Yeah, I think, but that was a law brought about by Barack Obama and Joe Biden, called the Jobs Act. And that applies for anybody that has a business. I say what's so important is because everybody isn't a tech founder, but a lot of people need capital to start their businesses. And so equity crowdfunding is available for every single person that has the idea of a type of business that they want to build. So if it's a brick and mortar business, it could be a food product, it could be a technology product. You can raise capital to fund your business through equity crowdfunding. So I champion equity crowdfunding because it's a way to sidestep discrimination. I think we're sidestepping discrimination by funding our own businesses with our own dollars. And just a social media platform, it really, really adds value to that, because who better than to give ownership to than the actual users of the platform? And then they become advocates to the platform and help spread the message about using the platform and investing. And so it's a really great combination that helps us really raise capital. And the app speaks for itself. Again, we have a long way to go, but we've come a long way. And so I love the fact that we are being mentioned in the same conversation, in the same breath, as platforms like TikTok that are worth $200 billion, that we're having, we're being mentioned in conversations with Instagram and these other apps that have raised billions and billions of dollars. And we've only raised 17, which is a lot of money, but it's literally less than 0.1% of what these companies have raised collectively to build these massive platforms. But yet we're being compared to them, which says something about my team, the company, and what we've been able to build.
Talking with Isaac Hayes III. It's an exciting conversation, refreshing for your morning. And we'll talk about how you can get on Fanbase if you're not there yet, what it is, and how to do it. That's coming up on KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to here with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580. Now that Donald J. Trump has begun a second term as president, please join the Empowerment Congress and KBLA Talk 1580 to examine the question, where do we go from here? Chaos or democracy? At the Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science. This Saturday, January 25th, some of LA's top elected officials, Representative Sidney Kamlager Dove, Assembly members Isaac Bryan and Sade El-Hawari will be on hand for what promises to be a lively and informative conversation. Doors open at 8 a.m. The general session, moderated by Tavis Smiley and broadcast live on KBLA Talk 1580, begins at 9 a.m. The event is free, but seating is limited. Registration is required. Go to the Empowerment Congress website at www.empowermentcongress.org to register. Where do we go from here? Chaos or democracy? Join the Empowerment Congress and KBLA Talk 1580 this Saturday, January 25th. Doors open at 8 a.m. The free program starts at 9 a.m. Registration is required at www.empowermentcongress.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Fabrice.
Fabric Talk.
Hello, my love. I am your living room carpet. I see everything. I feel everything. After a while, I smell like everything, including Sir Pickles, who you snuggle with while binging that dating show you can't stop watching. So, how about we freshen things up with Fabrice Fabric Spray? Oh, and a big spray for my pals, couch and ottoman. Ah, yes, refreshing. Breathe happy, Fabrice. La 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 la.
Can your pad absorb everything and stay fresh? Always Radiant with Flex Foam can. Get up to 0 leaks, 0 odor, and 0 feel. Because Flex Foam is the only pad with a flexible foam core. You heard me, foam. Always Radiant is so thin, it feels like nothing, yet protects like nothing else. Can your pad do that? For up to 100% leak-free protection, try Always Radiant to see what Flex Foam can do for you.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
Slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
And I appreciate you for being here. It's a fascinating conversation talking with Fanbase founder Isaac Hayes III, who's also a music producer and an artist in his own right. So for folks that are not necessarily, well, I guess we're still on the semi-early adapter train. Fanbase, you can invest in it. You talked about, $3.99 being the entry level to kind of have some equity, but to use it is free, right?
Yeah, app is free to download, free to use. We're in 190 countries and territories on iOS and Android. And it really combines I think we often have conversations about, well, what is the everything app? Where's an app where I don't have to move from TikTok to Instagram to Twitter to Clubhouse to YouTube to Snapchat? And I think the future of social is building, these media communities, these media containers that people can, that are a multiverse of media, that people can find their own space, be entertained, but seamlessly connect with their friends and find different types of content. So that's what Fanbase does. We have 6 content formats, which are just posts, which are photos and videos. We have stories. We have live. We have short form video we call flicks. So that would be like what you call TikTok or Reels. And then we have audio chat rooms, and we have a long form video like YouTube, up to 2 hours worth of video content. So it's all inside one app that everybody has the ability to create content in any 6 of those formats whenever they want to. And if they decide that they want to take it to the next level and start to have subscribers for that content, they can do that as well on 5 of the 6 formats. And on any post, anywhere in the app, even in comments and in DMs, people can tip you love, which is digital currency that equates to a penny per love that you actually is real money that you actually make.
Wow. I mean, that's the thing that kind of struck me going, navigating around inside the app a little bit, is that there are so many different features. Something that I can do on one app but not on another app seems all to be available on Fanbase.
Yeah, I wanted to create, because I think people are getting, app fatigue. And a new app comes out, and we got to go to this app, and we got to go to this app.
Yeah.
So the 2 things that I wanted to do is create a community of formats and functions that people could use, and then and then you can pick your place of where you want to be, investing your time and spending your content, but then also starting the platform. And so the most exhausting thing to do is to create a platform and have 0 content on it. It's like, I'm here, it's a blank page, it's nothing. Mm-hmm. So I had my team build something that we call a content migrator. So right now we have content migration from TikTok or Instagram. So you can migrate up to 1,000 pieces of content.
Wow,
from
that's a
TikTok
lot of content.
Or Instagram.
That's a lot
it is
of content. Yeah.
We've migrated, I think, over, I want to say, 7 million pieces of content, I think.
Wow.
In the last few weeks, or last couple of weeks, because people are, choosing to say, look, it helps. But listen, it helps you start, with it gives you a head start. You don't start with a blank page. It takes your captions, it takes your content, it takes your bio and your profile picture, and just imports it over to Fanbase. So you're all there. And so it's really perfect. It's a great way to just, jump right into the app and not have to worry about starting from scratch.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm about to migrate a bunch of stuff over here. I just finally got my profile up, my pick up,
Mhm.
and got a couple followers, not too many, but yeah, Miles Lowe, you over here. Oh, he just signed in. Miles Lowe, our producer over here, um, our production manager, Miles Lowe Music. So we signed up, but and honestly, I'm not a tech idiot, but I'm not a tech genius. I do get yelled at by my teenagers sometimes, and I find it pretty like user friendly. It's not confusing.
There's familiarity intentionally put into the design of the platform because people are familiar with the platforms that they've been using. But the difference is that on a lot of these platforms, you don't get the reach and visibility that you normally would. Meaning, all of us are in competition with Instagram and TikTok
Right.
by them suppressing our content because they run ads. And so they can't give you the same visibility that they would charge somebody to run ads. So they can't let you reach 5 million people, but then they turn around and charge Walmart to reach 5 million people in the ad that they run. It doesn't make sense. And so they have to limit your visibility in order to have a profitable advertising model. But that ruins the user experience. And so I didn't want ads to be the forefront or the focal point of the platform because then I would just be repeating the same bad practice that Meta and TikTok do. So I want to be able to say, look, you can reach whoever follows you. They're going to get your content. Plus, we're going to extend that reach by increasing engagement for everybody because we're not worried about suppressing your content so that we can make money. Our model is if you win, we win. So if you get a subscriber, we get a portion of that revenue. If you get a love, we get a portion of that revenue. So we only win if you win. So it's not like we're out to make money and not let you make money. So that's the thing about it. It's the relationship that says we all win together. And that's the reason why I wanted to build a platform in that fashion.
That's a mindset. I mean, and they say organizations' culture comes from the top. And I think it's really noticeable on X right now. I'm still there because I like, I'm a journalist. I have to see what they're doing. I don't have to. I can only take it in small doses though, because it's become so hostile and so toxic that it's depressing to stay on there for more than about 3 minutes. So I think that model that you're describing is a reflective of your values.
Yeah, I think that the owner of X now has injected himself personally into the feed of every user on the platform, which is just unethical and quite annoying. And people put up with it because people loved Twitter before he got there.
Right.
And I think the people that really love Twitter will continue to stay. Now, what I will say is that the speed in which we closed this $17 million round, we debuted at our first basically keynote in the fall called Fanbase 4, what we were doing for 2025, is something called Fanbase Spark. And Fanbase Spark is our answer to Twitter. It's Twitter without Elon, right? It's X without Elon. But again, the speed in which we're able to close this round is the speed in which we can build Spark and really allow citizen journalism and free speech and balanced news to exist in the world. And so that's what I'm really excited to build Spark because I love microblogging. I love the humor. I saw something funny today, and it just made me laugh. I'm like, why I like microblogging? Because it's people's thoughts. They're sharing their thoughts in real time and providing information. And it's a valuable tool just for journalism because it allows news to spread super, super quick. And that's really, important when you're trying to break stories or help people or, in emergency situations, just let people know where threats are. It's really, really critical. And so it's unfortunate that now it is just a toy of a billionaire to only, feed his particular agenda. But Fanbase Spark is coming in 2025.
But honestly, I mean, even with the fan base that we currently have, we can do posts. So even though it's not technically like a Twitter, I mean, you can have some of that experience now, right?
There's a recipe. There's a formula to what Twitter is. I'm not going to say what it is, but I'm going to give it away. It's a specific tone and format that make microblogging what it is. It's not. It doesn't lean so much. It doesn't lean so heavy into the photos or the videos. It leans heavy into the information in real time that people can see. So if you open up a platform like Twitter and you open up the top and you see a particular celebrity or a particular place in the world trending, then what is going on there? And then you might find out that there are fires in LA.
Yeah,
right? You might
yeah.
find out that there is some sort of world event that's happening in real time that we all need to be paying attention to. And that is the part about that I think that's really, really needed and necessary, that is unbiased in this world, because there's a lot of things that go on around the world. And without platforms that allow that information to flow free to the globe, stories get lost. Struggles get buried.
Yeah.
Things get shut out, and we can't do that moving forward.
Yeah, it's a great point. And suppress. We're talking with Isaac Hayes III. He's the founder of Fanbase and so much more. Appreciate your spending the hour with us. We'll continue after news, traffic, and sports on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Multiple new reports say President Trump plans to send 10,000 troops to the southern border to assist Border Patrol and use DoD bases for migrants. South Carolina is thawing out after a rare snowstorm. Conway received over 6 inches of snow on Wednesday and Georgetown over 4 inches. Myrtle Beach is facing dangerous driving conditions after about 4 inches of snow fell Tuesday night. Today, more confirmation hearings for President Trump's cabinet picks are happening. Doug Collins is considered for the Department of Veterans Affairs, Eric Scott Turner for Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, and Lee Zeldin for the Environmental Protection Agency. And jury selection is expected to conclude today in A$AP Rocky's assault trial in Los Angeles. He faces assault and weapons charges for allegedly pulling a gun and firing at another artist in 2021. I'm Bree Wood on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
Del Taco's new Chipotle Chicken Burrito and Bean Rice and Cheese Burrito, packed with flavor, made with fresh ingredients, and found on Del's Real Deals menu. You heard that right. These burritos on a value meal with everything under $3. Look at Del Taco, hooking us up.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A very short-handed Clippers team put up a strong battle Wednesday night against the defending NBA champion Boston Celtics. The Clippers took the Celtics to overtime before losing 117-113 at the Intuit Dome in Inglewood. 29 points for Clippers forward Derrick Jones Jr. The Clippers played without Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, Ivica Zubac, Norman Powell, Chris Dunn, and Nicholas Batum. Not much rest for the Celtics. They play the Lakers tonight at Crypto. The USC women's basketball team, ranked 4th in the country, had no trouble at Purdue Wednesday night. The Trojans held Purdue to 2 points in the second quarter, en route to a 79-37 win. 14 straight win for the Trojans. Guard Avery Howell led the Trojans with 18 points off the bench. Juju Watkins had 16. The Trojans are 18-1, 8-0 in the Big Ten. UCLA's women's basketball team, number 1 in the country, is at Rutgers tonight. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
I don't even know where to start with health insurance. Do I just, call a hospital and ask them?
Look up Covered California. That's their whole deal, making it easier to get and pay for health insurance.
Okay, but can I afford it?
Yes. They work with a bunch of health insurance companies. I pay something like $10 a month, and it's actually really good coverage.
Wait, what? How did I not know this?
You just needed to know who to ask.
If you've got questions, Covered California can help every step of the way. Enroll by January 31st. Covered California. This way to health insurance.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join the Inner City Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles as it presents a Los Angeles Wildfire Benefit Concert on Sunday, February 2nd, 4 p.m. at the First United Methodist Church, 500 East Colorado Boulevard in Pasadena. Join us for a powerful evening of music, unity, and support as talented performers from our community come together to raise funds for those affected by the wildfires. The concert is free, and all proceeds raised will benefit those who have sustained unimaginable losses. It's the Inner City Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles in concert, Sunday, February 2nd, 4 p.m. at the First United Methodist Church in Pasadena, located at 500 East Colorado Boulevard. All contributions should be made payable to the California Community Foundation Wildfire Community Fund. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580. Now that Donald J. Trump has begun a second term as president, please join the Empowerment Congress and KBLA Talk 1580 to examine the question, where do we go from here? Chaos or democracy? At the Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science. This Saturday, January 25th, some of LA's top elected officials, Representative Sidney Kamlager-Dove, Assembly members Isaac Bryan and Sade El-Hawari will be on hand for what promises to be a lively and informative conversation. Doors open at 8 a.m. The general session, moderated by Tavis Smiley and broadcast live on KBLA Talk 1580, begins at 9 a.m. The event is free, but seating is limited. Registration is required. Go to the Empowerment Congress website at www.empowermentcongress.org to register. Where do we go from here? Chaos or democracy? Join the Empowerment Congress and KBLA Talk 1580 this Saturday, January 25th. Doors open at 8 a.m. The free program starts at 9 a.m. Registration is required at www.empowermentcongress.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. Find a righteous rage and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Talking with Fanbase founder and creative in his own right, including a voice actor. I can see why. Isaac Hayes III. Continuing that conversation. I want to remind you, though, that I will be out in the Altadena, Pasadena area Saturday. Start time is 2:30 at the Pasadena Church there. That's what it's called. Pasadena Church for an Eaton Canyon Fire Legal Aid Clinic. What you need to know, it is free. We will be streaming it. That's hosted by the law offices of Bradley Gage, our contributor, James Farr, and, of course, I'll be moderating that. So please join us. Isaac Hayes III, you carry your dad's name and his legacy. You manage his portfolio. I am also of course not as widely known as your dad, but I'm also the child of an iconic civil rights person, Mary Baraka, the writer. And I always feel like whatever I do, I have the honor and also the responsibility of carrying that name and building on what my ancestors did instead of tearing it down. Does that factor into the way you move in the world?
Absolutely. Growing up, I had an example of a father that was always kind, always respectful, always down to earth, polite to everyone that I ever saw him meet. And so I carry that forward, and the times where I find myself acting like my father bring a smile to my face, because I understand how important it is, how important a father is in your life, or any figure that instills the right types of things in you, how an effect that has on you growing up. And so I like who I am because I like who my father was, and so that really gives me pride in being who I am.
It sounds like you inhabit that with ease. There's no burden. I don't hear a burden to that in your voice at all.
No, I mean, I think when I was younger, I think especially doing music, that might have been the burden to live up to that. But I was like, look, my father was the first Black man to win an Academy Award for a musical composition. You're not going to top that. So, but what I will say is that I recognize a lot of things about my father and myself, and that he had an enormous work ethic, right? And he was a creative genius. And so the creativity that I have is something that I don't necessarily have to only apply being in the music industry. And so when I let go of the burden of having to succeed as a musician, which I was successful, but I said I could do this in doing other things and starting businesses and other things that I wanted to do, because I'm still a creative person. And that's when I found, my real love for what I'm doing, and even the most success that I've ever had in building this company. And so I want people to know out there that may feel like they have the burden of living up to someone in their family that is successful or who their parents are. They're the traits and the things that are in your parents that you can apply to other facets of what a career can be. So if your father, is an amazing doctor, right, and they want you to go to med school, it's something about what makes your mother or father a doctor that you can take and say, but it doesn't have to be a doctor. I can be this, right? I can be an athlete. But the attention to detail, or the intellect that a doctor has to have, you can take that and put that into your sports or your music or your acting. And so it's very, very important that people know that you don't have to be your parents to be like your parents.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, the DNA is there. You don't have to try. It's going to manifest somehow.
Yeah.
That's the blueprint. So you actually you take care of your father's music. You manage his catalog, and a lot of folks were cheering when you won that victory in rescinding the use of his song for the Trump campaign. It seemed like, one of the few wins we had during this last election season. And you also said you're not worried about him trying to get back at you.
Well, I mean, it's still an open case. I don't necessarily, speak too much about it, but it's a copyright issue that I think will be handled in the court of law, and that that's pretty much all I can say about it. I understand what was said, and so I continue to move forward every day and not really dwell on anything that could be perceived as negative or worry about stuff like that.
Okay, I mean that's the best way to live our lives, really. It's just I said what I said, I did what I did, and show up and hit your marks.
Yeah.
Miles Lowe, who's an artist, rap artist in his own right, has a question for you about Fanbase. Turning the mic over to Miles.
Peace, man. Peace. I just signed up. Still getting acquainted to the app. I'm curious. You're speaking about the, the youth and people wanting to look for, newer apps and more apps to, get away from the traditional, the top tier apps, the IGs, the TikToks. But what I'm curious is, what is the specialty? What draws them in? What makes your app the best at what you do? What is the thing that Fanbase does over every other app?
Honestly, I think it's two things. One, monetization, and I know money is such a niche component or a niche understanding of what people are used to inside of social media platforms. But I'm here to tell every single person that's listening that we are all content creators, and your content has value. Social media has spent the last 20 years convincing people that the ring light, the camera, all the time, the energy, the makeup, the writing, the choreography that you put into making your content doesn't have value, and that you're trading that real world monetary value for attention. And that's not the case. And so I tell everybody that monetization is really at the forefront of what everybody's going to be able to do. So we're all content creators. If you post one time a year or 100 times a day, you're running ads in between your content. If you comment on someone's post, that's content. If you're in the group chat with your friends, you're creating content because you're creating engagement where people stay on the app, and you're getting fed ads based off even what you say inside your group chats. So we're all content creators. And so the ability for people to monetize on the app from day one, I know it's going to be something that people don't necessarily understand out the gate, but over time, when I see people start making, $50, $100, $75 on Fanbase, they're like, wow, I've been on Instagram for 10 years and never made a dime. In the first month I was on Fanbase, I made $85. People start to understand, oh, my content has value. And so that's a mission of mine, to let people understand that your content, any content that you create, has value, and you should be charging for that content. And some people will subscribe and some people won't, but that's the beauty of Fanbase. People can still follow you, still keep up with you, still engage with you for free. But if they want to support you, and they want to get behind what you're doing, even you as an artist or musician, and help build your career as a fan, they're able to do that.
No, that's almost like a Patreon model, except for there's a free level. And it's true because you have to be at a very elite level to actually make money on YouTube or Instagram or, Twitter now. It's not, most people will never see a dime.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I think that the ability for people to tip people on social media platforms, human beings are generous and transactional. You'd be surprised the amount of people that will tip you for your video, even a few cents. But I say this all the time. A penny isn't much until 1 million people give you one. and then it's $10,000. Right?
Yeah.
Penny's not much until a million people give you one, and then you got $10,000. So even if a million people give you one penny, and imagine these platforms have billions of people on this. So imagine if billions of people are giving people pennies on an app, 5-10 years from now, you're like, yo, I made like $47 off one post or $5,000 off a video that I posted, because these micro donations add up over time, and everybody has the ability to receive those donations and give those donations and give those tips and then have subscribers at the same time. So it's going to be a different world. I tell people all the time that, if you don't start monetizing your content today, 5 years from now, you're going to be out-earned and out-earned by someone that is less talented than you are that simply decided to do so. Yeah, you got to start.
I mean, it's a great point. And I think there's this myth that you can just jump on YouTube or jump on Instagram and suddenly you'll go viral and you have millions of followers and you make all this money. But maybe there was a day when it was that easy, but it's not like that anymore. It's not that simple. And so, to be able to start at a micro level and be participating like that is actually pretty revolutionary.
I invented in-app purchase peer-to-peer subscription, so I'm very clear about that, because sometimes, a lot of times in American history, we find out that somebody black invented something that is, widely used, like the
traffic
alarm
light.
system.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the traffic light, the alarm system, the video game cartridge, and those pioneers go unnoticed. So
Right.
I want to be very, very clear. If you use an app right now, if you use TikTok, if you use X, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, you can click a couple of buttons, and through Apple Pay or Google Pay, subscribe to an individual. I invented that in 2018. No app did that before Fanbase. So the subscription model, minus the credit card and the CVV number and the address, which are on platforms like Patreon and OnlyFans and Netflix and all that kind of stuff. But the in-app purchase subscription model directly from person to person, I came up with that in 2018, and that's what Fanbase was built on that. And now every app does that. All these apps have subscription capability, but at first no one ever thought to do that or put that technology and combine it together so we could subscribe to people the same way you subscribe to Spotify or Netflix.
So there's no way for you to monetize that. I mean, I was noticing that you were pointing out how even, the big dogs are copying you, even if it might be a song, the use of a song, in a particular cut or something that you picked in the way you did it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll say this. I take pride. I don't get offended when they copy what I do. I don't get offended when they copy what we build at Fanbase, because you're copying us, and we haven't even really raised the kind of capital where we can truly compete with you. So if you're worried about us now, you'll be very worried when we raise $100 million, when we raise $200 million. It's like, oh, it's a problem. Fanbase is a problem, because now they have some money to ideate these ideas and faster in a month rather than 7 months. 7 months, they can do it in 7 weeks. So we have a problem because these guys are coming, and when they get here, it's going to be an issue.
Yeah, that's a great example of the creative mindset. Not looking over your shoulder, not being mad that you can't monetize what they stole from you, but knowing that your creativity is infinite. And so once you continue to build what you're building, no one can compete with that.
Not at all. I always say Fanbase moves. Other apps move. Fanbase moves at the speed of culture. Other apps move at which the speed that they can copy culture.
I love that. We're talking with Isaac Hayes the third. We'll continue the conversation when we come forward, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a black and brown-led led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
That was another way. I would smoke once an hour. That didn't work either. All that would happen at some point of the day, I would end up doubling up. Other ways that I tried to quit was I stopped buying cigarettes totally. But if I took 3 puffs off of 15 friends, those didn't count because they weren't my cigarettes and they weren't full cigarettes. I went through a lot.
Every attempt is part of your story to quit for good. Visit Kick It California today at kickitca.org.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
Talking with Isaac Hayes III. He's the founder of Fanbase. All you have to do is go to your app store, your Google Play Store, and type in Fanbase and get it. Like any other app you can get on, start your profile, which I recently did, and it wasn't hard, okay? It's free. You can invest. You can subscribe to others, but to just get on there and participate, it's free, and it's Black-owned, as he has said. A couple things that I want to try to get to before we get out of here. Ronald Malone was in the chat saying he can't even keep up with the apps he already has, and I remember I said that about Instagram, and then that ended up being my fave. But there is app fatigue. That's a real thing. I was talking to another friend. I have to choose which ones I'm going to stay on. And I guess I would ask you to address that. Like, what do you say to folks who say that? For me, jumping on Fanbase, I'm thinking, A, it's Black-owned. B, there's so many different things that I can do on this one app, like long-form videos, short-form videos, posts, and chats. So that for me would be a reason, because it kind of consolidates a lot of different functions in one place, so I don't have to jump around. But what would you say to folks with app fatigue?
Well, I think user adoption takes time, so it's easier. There's less fatigue the younger you get. You got to remember, like, I'm not calling them old.
Act like a young person.
Listen, I'm not calling them old, but what I'm saying is that, 20 years ago, in a matter of 4 or 5 years, we went from MySpace to Facebook to Instagram. To Twitter to Instagram, like in a 4-year period. So there was no app fatigue. So younger users don't have social media app fatigue because they really are just finding time to really be able to be allowed to be on these sites and really express themselves. And so what happens is that the younger generations are going to push Fanbase to superstar status, right. And then the older people are going to start to see, like, okay, people that are 10 years older than someone who's 15. So the 15-year-old is going to inspire the 25-year-old. The 25-year-old is going to be like, wait a minute, what's this thing? And the 35-year-old is going to see the 25-year-old. And then before you know it, mom and dad are on Fanbase, and then the younger kids are like, it's time to go.
Right.
Like mom and dad, and then the next app will come along, and it will take out Fanbase, and it will be the biggest platform in the world, and so on and so forth. And I think that's the future we live in.
Yeah, that's well said. Me and Miles were talking during news instead of listening to the news. We were talking about, what is the box out like in that environment? Not just from the fact that Black people and creators of color, workers of color are often pushed out of the tech space, but also just the general business landscape right now, which doesn't seem particularly hospitable. What obstacles are you dealing with, and how are you pushing past them?
Well, I think, money is always the obstacle. I've seen in the past 4 years apps that were designed and funded by venture capital to compete with Fanbase and go out of business in 18 months.
Yeah.
So imagine a VC giving somebody $50 million to build something to beat what you've built with 10, and they can't do that. So that shows the inequity, and that shows the inequity in the ability for Black founders to receive capital. And so we just we run our race. You know, a lot of times, and what I'm learning about the tech space is a lot of it is like smoke and mirrors. A lot of it is like, let's get a bunch of money and act like we're popular and act like the app has a lot of users and act like the app is really doing what it's doing. And it really isn't. And then the app goes out of business and you can only fake it for so long. And so I'm not here to be fake. I'm here to build real technology, real community, real opportunity. And so that takes longer. It takes, you know, some of these apps that people are jumping on even in the midst of this TikTok ban, right? So let's say Red Note. That was an app that everybody ran to.
Yeah.
You know, no, but listen, Red Note was founded in 2013. You understand what I'm saying? So that's 12 years ago. And they're worth $17 billion, and they raised $900 million. And so it takes that long. Wow. I think we often look at the exception and not the rule. The rule is it takes a long time to build a business. The exception is in Instagram. You know, the exception is a TikTok. The exception is these platforms that come out and they shoot to the top of the App Store and they become wildly successful. But there are other platforms that take 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years to build. Like a lot of people are hearing about Red Note for the first time, but don't know that company's been around since 2013. And that's kind of what's going to happen with Fanbase. We're going to be the longest overnight success you've ever heard of. Like, oh yeah, Fanbase. Yeah, we started in 2018 though, and you might not know those early years when it was just me funding the business out of my pocket and us making those mistakes and getting our, you know, our footing in how we understand how we're going to build this business. But then when it does hit, and then when we do raise the capital that we absolutely need, we do that. And then secondly, opportunities to speak on platforms like this. I feel like, especially in the tech landscape, the media has not really highlighted Fanbase in ways that it could. And I can only assume that's because I'm not a venture darling. I'm not a VC-backed corporation. I don't have the VCs that can call up the magazines and say, hey, I got this new startup I'm funding. I need you to do an article on it. And it shows up on TechCrunch and it shows up on, you know, Inc. and all these other platforms. And so it's going to be a grind. We're going to have to earn our respect. We're going to have to take it in the way of attention that we take from other apps by just being who we are. And that'll be great. It's fine. I don't mind that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Also, you to be deemed a genius as a Black man, it's, you know, it's harder if you're just someone else who's not Black. You can just call yourself a genius and people say, oh, he's a genius.
Right,
so,
yeah.
You know, maybe we have to start calling you a genius. Maybe that would help. Genius, Isaac Hayes III. Is it a safer place for community activists, for nonprofits, for people like myself whose opinions may run afoul of those conservative billionaires who have found themselves shadow banned or discriminated against or attacked?
Yeah, because I'll say absolutely yes. Because I like discourse. I mean, discourse creates opportunities for change and understanding.
Right.
If you lock out one side or the other, a conservative or a liberal viewpoint, there's no meeting in the middle of us to have understanding. And so I think trying to create these isolated pockets of one ideology I think it's very dangerous in what people create. And so I want Fanbase to be a place where everybody feels safe. Everybody feels that they have a right to speak on what they speak on. But there's a way to disagree with somebody without being disrespectful. Yeah. Right. But I understand that a lot of these issues are very, very passionate issues. Sometimes there are lives on the line. There's livelihood. There's things that are involved. And so we have to understand that these things matter to people and they have to have opportunities to express themselves, outlets to be able to share their stories, to share their trauma, to share things that are really happening to them that mainstream media might not cover. And so I want Fanbase to absolutely serve as a vehicle and a vessel for people to express those things, and so that they don't feel isolated and left out and alone in the world, because the world is a big place. It's not just what Elon and Mark Zuckerberg say it is.
Right. Jump on Fanbase. You won't get shadow banned. We've got a little less than a minute here. What's your elevator parting thought for folks about Fanbase or whatever you want to say?
Man, well, I think you've had enough of an example that nothing lasts forever in the world of social media has changed drastically just in the last 5 days. These legacy media platforms, social media platforms, cannot be trusted. It's time for a next generation of social media platforms to come along and really fill the gap where truth matters, freedom of speech, and economic opportunity. And Fanbase is one of those platforms. And so I ask everyone to download Fanbase right now on Android or iOS, make a profile, migrate your content from Instagram or TikTok, and then invest. Because we have over 19,000 investors that have contributed to the success of this platform, and we're only going to continue to grow and build bigger and better. So I don't want 5 years from now, I don't want people to see Fanbase as the number one app in the world, and they're like, man, I could have invested in that in 2025. Dang, So go to Start Engine. Go to startengine.com/Fanbase to invest. The minimum to invest is $399. I'm not counting your pockets, but $399 today could be a lot more money 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now, other than just what we might spend things on, trivial things, when we have an opportunity to invest in a tech startup that we never had a chance to do.
Isaac Hayes III, thank you so much. Tavis Smiley is up next, up against the clock. Until tomorrow, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Multiple new reports say President Trump plans to send 10,000 troops to the southern border to assist Border Patrol and use DOD bases for migrants. South Carolina is thawing out after a rare snowstorm. Conway received over 6 inches of snow on Wednesday and Georgetown over 4